Hey, this is April Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com. In this review, I will be highlighting the special features and other notables of the electronic Starfleet phaser from the 2009 feature film, Star Trek. Starfleet, and by extension the United Federation of Planets, was always conceived of as a peaceful, exploratory, and peacekeeping organization. In the 1960s, as Gene Roddenberry was attempting to create this show, one of the things he tried to emphasize was that Starfleet is not a military organization. It never was. Their ships, their space stations, their star bases had weapons, shields, armor, blah, 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 but the emphasis was always on peaceful exploration. And the whole point of the show is to show the future of mankind and how it could get along with itself and other alien species out there somewhere. And that extended to many aspects of the show. Not only in the design of the Enterprise herself, the uniforms there's no ranking insignia on the uniforms. It was less intentionally oblique as to the rankings, as to the decorations. Nothing was ever nailed to the floor as far as what was happening for designs. And this would, of course, extend into the phasers that were designed by art director Matt Jeffries, who pretty much created everything else visually for the show as far as technology goes. In designing the phaser, one of the stipulations was it had to look as little like a gun as possible. It still had to be something that shot a laser, because, in science fiction lasers are okay, bullets are not. It still had to be a pistol-like weapon of some kind that would shoot energy beams or blah, 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 but it couldn't look like a gun. So it couldn't have a barrel, it couldn't have a stock where you would, insert the energy cells and, all kinds of things like that. Now, the design of the Type 2 phaser from the 1960s was actually a two-part design, something which wasn't really recreated before or afterwards either. In addition to the primary weapon that you saw here, there would also be a smaller secondary phaser, a Type 1 phaser, that you could separate off the top and use it for pew-pew-pew. Well, that concept has pretty much been discarded ever since. And as is the case with the remake in 2009, we didn't get a Type 1 merged in with a Type 2. In fact, this is the only Starfleet weapon that we see, other than those on the exterior of the starships. The toy that you see here is composed entirely of ABS plastic. There are three transparent parts on here. There's the stun barrel, there's the vaporized barrel, and then there's the power regulation window sitting on the top. I was surprised to find, though, upon closer scrutiny, that though it looks very shiny in photos and in video, it is, as a matter of fact, painted to a large degree. The top half of the phaser is painted on this side. This is also painted, and this section back here is painted as well. But the entire handle and the battery compartment box are not painted. However, the toy is a bit inconsistent with itself. Like I said, upon closer scrutiny, this section from here to here is painted. Then you can see the separation line between all the plastic and stuff. It's painted over here, but then it's clear over here, which means that this, I don't know what this plastic is. It's ABS, that's no question, but what is silver metallized plastic called? Someone please tell me. I've been calling it vacuum foam and all kinds of things like that, vacuum metallized, whatever it is, but I don't know what it's really called. Someone please tell me, because, you can scratch it up so it's not paint. Anyways, it's painted over here, but then it's shiny over here. The top sections here are painted. This is painted on both sides. This is painted on both sides. But the handle is not painted. This side is not painted. And the trigger is. So it's inconsistent with itself as far as paint details. In addition to being a trans fan, a Lego maniac, and a Sentai snob, I'm also a Trekker. Which means that, in this case, I'll be able to recognize something that most toy reviewers are going to miss. Most, not all. Throughout the entirety of Star Trek, phasers have never had simple on-off switches. The on-off switch is sitting down here. It's just this nice little tab which just actually the same colors. You know, it's not black or anything like that. It's like, you don't notice it unless you actually look there. That's cool. Phasers don't have an on-off switch. Well, they do kind of, just not on-off. Sometimes they'll have little tabs or knobs, and usually they have, you know, a couple of buttons across the top, and then there's a power display indicator. Well, one of the things that a lot of reviewers, particularly on YouTube, are missing is the function of this wheel here. This is not a power regulator, my word for it, where it increases or decreases the power of the stun and the vaporizer settings. What this is a power status. This is, in essence, the on-off switch for the phaser. If this were in real life, this is what it's for. You just roll this up, and that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the first time we've ever had one of those on a toy phaser. Ever. Like, there have never been little lights across the top when you actually had to push a button or something. Usually, you know, you turn it on, or you press the button and you press the trigger, and that was it. But to my recollection, no toy phaser has ever had a light and sound associated with turning it on. So that's pretty cool. And it's not an on-off switch. It's its own independent function. And it's specifically designed, as far as toys go, to stay on more or less the whole time. I mean, this is your power indicator. This tells you how much energy is left for you to shoot off, which are known as rapid nadions, by the way. I'm not quite certain what this panel appears for, but that's just the way it is. So anyways, just so people are wondering, this is a power indicator. It's not for increasing or decreasing power. That's the whole point of that. And now for the primary function of the toy. With the power already on, you pull the trigger, you get this. You pull it once, you get a single shot. You hold it down, and you get... Let go, and it stops. The speaker comes out to the left side, even though there are holes on the right side, but okay, whatever. Now that was stun mode, where you basically make your target unconscious, or you can, like burn something or blah, 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 blah. However, this toy has an alternate mode, which is a very, very cool feature, by the way, in the movie, which is the ability to switch to vaporize mode. Same thing. Pull the trigger once, you get... Hold the trigger down, you get... And again, none of these are affected by the power monitor on top. This is a very, very, very cool feature. I love this thing. This was one of the big reasons why it is that that I got this toy. And the trigger for switching things around is right here. Oops, my thumb was in the way. So yeah, I love that thing. I love that feature. The electronic USS Enterprise that I covered for CDX can't lay a finger on the Starfleet phaser. It just can't do it. The lines are very clean on this thing. The applications are clean. Yeah, I wish that they'd been consistent with their paint. Or rather, if you're going to have it silver colored, make the whole thing, if you're going to put silver paint on it at all, paint the whole thing silver. I mean, I'm having to wear a glove so you guys can't recognize my fingerprints on it. When the tape starts rolling, I'll take the glove off and do whatever I want. The craftsmanship involved in this thing is pretty damn incredible. The only things I have to complain about, really, is that the paint is a little inconsistent. Paint the whole thing, or don't paint it at all. Just make sure that it's consistent, okay? Like me with a fine eye for detail, I noticed it. And also make certain that your electronics are tight in there. That on-off switch is frustrating because you actually have to kind of mess around with it, throw it around all the place. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to throw it around, but you do have to kind of wiggle the trick. You do have to wiggle that on-off switch a bit, so that's a little annoying. Things to change? Nothing. One thing I might have changed is that, and I've seen it on toys before, is that when you press the button there, when the barrels flip, I wish you could have pressed the button on the other side to make the barrels twirl around the opposite direction, so you could just flip-flop back and forth. Manually setting it, okay, whatever. But, that's a Star Trek fan desperately wanting them to recreate that motion, because that was just such a cool feature. I think it's just fine the way it is. The blue-colored barrel actually isn't blue in the movie. It shoots blue bolts, but it's actually, you can't actually see the coloring of the barrel is actually blue. It's actually, the silver color of the rest of the weapon. The vaporize barrel, however, is partially red. So that's correct. But the blue barrel... But I'm willing to give Playmate Toys a pass on that, because this is, after all, a toy, and you're supposed to be able to see it. If the blue stun barrel were completely painted up silver, and it had a red light in the center, yeah, I would have had a problem with that. If it was painted over silver and it had a blue light inside of it, just like it does in the movie, I'd had no problem with that. But I'll give them a pass for what they came up with here. I just have this image floating through my head as I film this, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I saw the movie in a drive-in theater about 2 months ago, and I just have this image stuck in my head of the front, top, and bottom halves splitting apart so that the barrels can twist around and then snapping back together again. Did that actually happen in the movie? I mean, I know I can wait until, November, when the DVD comes out, and just double check it then, and now problem solved, but I'm impatient, so somebody please tell me if those do actually flip around. If they do separate like that, I don't think that Playmate Toys could have created this toy for the price value that they did. I mean, the toy's like $23, something like that. I don't think they could have created this with the effectiveness. I mean, it would have been movie accurate, but it probably would have been a lot more expensive. So if they do split apart like that, okay, what they came up with is just fine. If they don't split apart, no loss. Believe it or not, this is actually the first Star Trek phaser I've ever owned. It's very Art Deco, but I love it. I think it's great. And I highly recommend that you guys get this. This thing is great. And so, this is Ava Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com, signing off. Hey, this is Ava Unit 4A for CollectionDX.com. In this review, I will be highlighting the special features and other notables of the Electronic Ion Nebulizer set from the 2009 feature film Galaxy Quest. Yes, I put bloopers into my videos, believe it or not. One of the things that drives me absolutely batty is, and you can see this in the blooper section, is that I would turn it on and it wouldn't work. Well, unfortunately, the on-off trigger, the mechanism inside here, is a little loose. I don't know if it's going to do it. It's probably not. But I would just, casually turn it on, and this thing wouldn't. There, see? So you have to manually push it back. And then it'll work again. It's actually pretty loud. It's a very generous design. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the whole... the Electronic Ion Nebulizer set from the 2009... something to make the phaser more powerful than it already is shooting at. It's not a power setting. What this is, oh my God,